Hello adorable charms, you're most welcome to Everything Literature, where you get to learn about everything concerning drama, prose, the most inspiring poetry. Take a seat and enjoy the class. Once again, you're most welcome. My name is Olamide. I am a certified educationist and also a literary analyst. I must say, a literary enthusiast. I love everything literature, everything about literature. I love it. Okay, so if you're new here, that means something about literature that you here. Do well to subscribe, and if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much. You're the real deal. So here at Everything Literature, we get to explore the world of literature, talk about drama, prose, and poetry. Okay, without further ado, so let's delve into the class.
The last time you had a beautiful thought about a friend or relative of yours, how did you get to tell them? Was it via a text or an audio conversation? Well, language is the primary tool used in literature as well to communicate every noble and beautiful thought you could have ever. It is essential for us to know the ways by which literature is usually expressed. Hence, the focus for today's class is on the forms, or what we can call the classification of literature. Now, when we talk about the forms or classification of literature, it simply refers to the way literature is usually being expressed. Okay, and on that note, there are two major types of literature, or two major ways by which literature is being expressed: oral form and the written form. The oral form can otherwise be called the oral literature, and the written form can otherwise be referred to as the written literature. Now, it's so essential to note that the major difference between these two is centered around authorship and audience. Oral literature is usually a communal thing. It's owned by the community, not a single person, and the audience is actually a particular set of people that is member of a particular community. While for the written literature, the authorship is usually a particular person and the audience is usually universal, that is everybody. It is meant for everybody. So, what is oral literature? This is a form of literature presented through oral expressions, that is, either spoken or sung. Oral literature is a type of literature that is handed down or presented orally through the words of mouth from one generation to another. It was mostly used before the invention of writing. So, three things to take note of. Oral literature is presented in oral form. It is a type of literature handed down from generation to generation through the words of mouth, and it is used before the invention of writing. Under the oral form, we have different subtypes. We have the folktale, we have the legend, we have the myth, we have the fable, and we have the anecdotes. And also we have the epic, we have the ballad, we have the riddles, and we have the proverbs, and also idioms. Okay, for the folktale, this is a short narrative handed down through oral tradition, passed down from one generation to the next. Now, the forms by which we have folktale can be in forms of trickster stories or the fairy tale. Okay, the legend. The legend is a story handed down from the past, especially one that may not be true but has historical background. Now, take note of the difference between folktale and legend. Legend has historical background, and the similarity between folktale and legend is that both are actually handed down from the past, from one generation to another. Okay, the third one, myth. These are stories that originated in ancient times, especially one dealing with ideas or beliefs about the origin of race, things, or events. Okay, so myths do not have historical background. They are just based on beliefs, based on set values, based on similarities in ideas about the origin of race, things, or events. Fable are short stories often with animals as characters, which convey a moral message. The goal of fable is to communicate a moral message, and the characters are usually animals. The best known collection of fables is Aesop's Fable. Examples of fables include the Hare and the Tortoise, the Lion and the Mouse, and others that we used to when we were growing up. Told fables by our parents. Okay, anecdotes. Anecdotes simply refers to the narrated incident in the life of an important person and should lay claim to an element of truth. Okay, so anecdote simply means a particular incident, a particular narration, particular account of an event. Okay, it's as simple as that. Now we move to the next ones. We have the epic, we have the ballad, we have the riddles, we have the proverb, and we have the idiom. So epic. These are long narrative poems in an elevated style, presenting characters of high position in adventures through their relation to a central heroic figure and their development of episodes. So take notes. Epic are usually long narrative poems, and they center around a central heroic figure. Okay, ballad. Ballad is a form of verse to be sung or recited and characterized by its presentation of dramatic in simple narrative form. So it's a blend of a kind of prose poetry in drama. Okay, so what that means is that it's usually sung. It's not just something to be written down alone. It's meant to be performed. And when it's performed, it's accompanied by soft music in those days. Okay, and there's a bit of dramatization, usually in form of dance. Okay, so the next one, we have riddles. Riddles are puzzling questions, statements, or descriptions, especially ones intended to test the cleverness of those wishing to solve them. E.g., when we hear expressions like this, I'm something, I walk on 4 legs in the morning, 2 legs in the noon, and 3 legs in the evening. What am I? Then you get to think about it. Oh, well, could possibly be walking with 4 legs in the morning and 2 legs in the afternoon, and 3 legs in the evening. So if you're able to think through, then you know it's human being, because we crawl with our limbs and toes, our knee, when we're still toddlers. When we get to our prime age, we walk on our 2 legs, and in our old age, towards the twilights of our life, we get to have a walking stick to serve as a 3rd leg for us. So we move to proverb. Proverbs are short, well-known sayings that state a general truth and give advice. It's a form of advice. Okay, the goal of proverb is to offer advice, and what they say, it's usually something of general truth. Or they are more of compact, fixed statements which imply question and answer. Okay, so not necessarily. It's a blend of making use of rhetorical question with some certain other figures of speech. Idioms a bit relates to it, but it's not. So if we go through some holy books, majorly the Bible, we'll see how the Messiah, Jesus Christ, in the Christian believe, made use of proverbs a lot, and also a particular portion of the Bible was actually titled Proverbs, the book of Proverbs. So we have a lot of short, well-known sayings in the book of Proverbs. Okay, 10. Idioms. What are idioms? Idioms refers to a phrase or a statement whose meaning is not clear from the meaning of its individual words, and which must be learnt as a unit. What this means is that if you take the meaning of the individual words in isolation, you won't get the full meaning of the expression. Take, for instance, the man kicked the bucket. The man kicked the bucket. On the surface, you think that a man has actually literally kicked a bucket. But in the deeper sense of it, it simply means the man has died. The man has died. Okay, so it simply means that idioms are not clear from the meaning of the words in isolation. If you take the meaning of kick to be kicked as in kicking a football, then we won't get desired results. Written literature. What are written literature? Written literature is a form of human expression through writing. So oral literature is the one we say, and written literature is the one we write. That is to say, it is a literature which is expressed or conveyed through written forms. Unlike oral literature, this kind of literature began with the invention of writing, when we have the print and press. Okay, great. And we have to know that written literature can be categorized into two forms. We have the first aspect, whereby we have written literature to include informative literature. Informative literature simply refers to information that tells us about facts, history, real people, and so on. The main purpose of informative literature is to offer knowledge and facts. We may otherwise refer to this as literature of knowledge. So most textbooks that we see can be classified under informative literature because they offer information. They give facts, they give figures, they give history, and the likes. So literature of knowledge. So biology textbook, government textbook, and mention the likes, all falls under informative literature, literature of knowledge, because we get things related to knowledge in there. Okay, so the second aspect, we have imaginative literature. Imaginative literature gives some entertainment, and it aims to arouse thoughts and feelings. Here, the author wants to express and communicate his ideas, his feelings, and his attitude to things or people. He or she wants to communicate feelings, not facts, emotions, not information only. Imaginative literature has a deeper sense than informative literature. Hence, it is often regarded as literature of power, because imaginative literature empowers the mind. It does not just grant knowledge to the mind, it offers beyond knowledge. It empowers the mind, it liberates the mind, it makes the mind to think, to ponder. And categorically, under the imaginative literature, we have the sunset aspect of written literature. We have the poetry, we have the drama, and we have the prose. These are the top three under written literature. So what do we mean by poetry? What do we mean by drama? What do we mean by prose? For an extensive understanding of what these three genres of literature means, the link to each of the classes and the definition for each will be dropped in the description below. Kindly check the description below. So what do we mean by poetry? Poetry is a composition that evokes emotions and imagination by the use of vivid, intense language, usually arranged in a pattern of words or lines with a regular repeated accent or stress. So it simply means that poetry wants to evoke our emotions and imagination, and to do this, it makes use of language in a particular manner, in a vivid manner. And this vivid or particularized manner has to do with arrangement of words in a kind of pattern that consists of repeated accent or stress. Okay, so talking about stress, when we check out the link below on poetry, you get to learn more about poetry. Okay, so talking about drama. Drama is a genre of literature that is written to be performed on stage. The most important feature of drama is action, because it's meant to be performed. So when we talk about performance, you expect action. And prose is fictional or non-fictional narrative of a considerable length in which characters and actions as representative of real life events. So it's a fictional or non-fictional narrative, and it's of a considerable length, so that we can know is it a novel, is it a novella, is it a short story. Details on this, check the link in the description box. Okay, and in summary on the classification of forms of literature, we talked about what are the forms of literature. That is, forms of literature refers to the way literature is usually being expressed. We talked about what oral literature is, that is expressing literature through the words of mouth. And written literature happens to be literature put into writing, either informative or imaginative. Informative means it's literature of knowledge, you gain knowledge from it. Imaginative means it's a literature of power, it empowers you, it liberates the mind, it provokes the mind to imagine things, to think things through. Okay, and with that, we have under imaginative literature the three major genres of literature: poetry, drama, and prose. Wow, I hope you enjoyed the class. For more educative content like this, do well to subscribe and click on the notification button below. Okay, I am Olamide from Everything Literature. Thank you. See you in the next class.